Hi, I'm David with BestRest Products. In this video sequence, we're going to show you how to use the Motorcycle Recovery System, or the MRS, as a towing system for your motorcycle, towing one bike with another bike. In this case, Steve's going to tow me with his BMW 650. I'm on my KTM 450. Now, there's different ways to tow. I mean, I've done it in the past using a rope between foot pegs, narrowly avoided disaster. There's pushing, there's different things, but we've learned from some good experiences that this is the most effective system that you can find. It keeps the towing in line with the center of the bike. It doesn't go off to the side, it doesn't want to pull you over, and it basically makes for the most safest and most effective method of towing that you can find motorcycle to motorcycle. That being said, there's always a risk involved, so this is done at your own risk, your own liability. For us, it works. So we're going to show the setup here on Steve's bike. This is the towing setup showing how we've attached to the bike. We have a webbing from the MRS kit that comes right down the center line. It splits and it has a loop right in the middle of the bike with a carabiner attached and with the towing rope. This towing rope has got a loop in it. This goes to the bike that's being towed, and this is the loose bit of rope. It comes back and is tied into a bundle here on the back of the seat, and the webbing is attached to the frame members. You could run down to the foot pegs if you needed to. In this case, for his frame and setup, it worked out very well to attach right here to his Metal Mule pannier frames, here and here. So we have a triangle coming out, and there was this handy hook right here for a top case that we went through. So when we're towing, it's going to be in line with the center axis of the bike. If this rope drops down, because it's held high, it's not going to tangle or foul the rear wheel of the towing motorcycle. That's very important. You can imagine the problems you would have if the rope fouled the wheel. Now we're going to move down to the bike that's being towed, my KTM 450. Here we have the webbing unit attached to the center of the motorcycle off the fork tubes. Now, if you've got a bike with a bunch of plastic, it may be difficult to find a place to attach, even on the handlebars. You may have to remove some plastic, you may have to remove a windscreen or something to get a good attachment point. But in this case, it was very easy. I went around the fork tubes and I came out to the front. I tied them off. This is one piece of strapping. I tied this off, and there's a loop right in the middle. And in the middle of that loop, I have a carabiner. The towing rope comes up to this carabiner, and it goes into what is called a Munter Hitch. This is a mountain climbing hitch that when I pull on this rope and I don't let this release, it will provide tension right at this knot right here. If I release the rope that goes up to my hand grip, this rope will coil out and it won't continue to pull the motorcycle forward. The important thing about your attachment point here is that you can't allow the carabiner or the webbing, if the rope detaches, to fall down and foul the front wheel. If it fouls the front wheel, there's going to be a problem because your front wheel will stop spinning. Going back up to the hand grip, this rope goes up to my hand grip, and in this case it goes to my throttle grip, and depending upon how much the bike weighs, I may wrap it around once or twice. I'll start out probably just laying it across the top of the grip and then putting my hand over it, and that should provide enough tension to prevent the Munter hitch from releasing and the rope to deploy. Now, when I'm getting towed, the guy in the front can't see what's happening to the guy behind. So I have to, as the guy that's being towed, I have to be very conscious of what's coming up ahead and any obstacles that I might see coming up. If I see something, I'm going to release the rope, let it deploy out, let my buddy ride ahead, and I'll take care of myself. But I never want to let him pull me into something that I see as potentially hazardous. Now, Steve and I have used this to haul each other out of the woods, to haul clients that were riding with us in group rides, and it works very effectively. We've hauled bikes down from, tops of mountains using this system. Towing is never easy, but it's a heck of a lot better than pushing the bike out or calling for a wrecker up in the middle of nowhere. So what we're going to do now, we've showed you the setup. You can read about it in the instruction manual that comes with the MRS. Both MRS kits, both the basic and the heavy duty, will do this function for you. But what we're going to do now is we're going to put on our gear, we're going to set up the camera on a tripod, and we're going to ride off into the sunset, and you can see how this works as we pull away. So we've got the towing system hooked up to Steve's 650 GS, back to my KTM 450. We're going to tow off up this kind of steep hill. It's a little wobbly at first because you're trying to get your momentum and trying to get the gyroscopic effect of the wheels. So if you see us wobble, that's kind of to be expected. As me, the guy in the back being towed, I have to keep my eyes open to make sure that I see anything coming up that Steve might have a problem with. For instance, if I see some particularly bad parts of the road, I might want to disconnect. Leave Steve to do his thing, I'll coast to a stop and we'll reconnect. Also, I'm the one that controls the tow, not Steve. I see what's coming, I let go of the rope deploys, Steve does his thing, I do mine. How far should you have between the bikes? About 2 bike lengths. Any longer than that, and when Steve makes a corner, the rope cuts the corner and it might hit an obstacle. So keep it about 15 to 20 feet in between the two. So I'm going to hop on the bike with all my protective gear. Steve's ready to go, and we'll tow off into the sunset. Go! So that worked pretty well. Even though we're on a hill, we pulled away quite smoothly. We got up to where I disconnected, the rope uncoiled, there was no fouling of the rope, and you notice that when I disconnected and the carabiner fell to the side, it did not foul my wheel. It's very important. So we've showed you how to tow relatively safely. Always a risk, but it beats having to call a wrecker and come up to get you on top of a mountain. We hope you enjoyed the video. We'll see you on the trail, and thanks for visiting BestRest Products.